S2000 update. If you guys have been following the channel, you'll know that I haven't really uploaded any footage of this car in 2 years. That's because I took a couple years off from the track. Last track day I did was October 2021 at Watkins Glen, and I am signed up to go there in October 2023 here. So exactly 2 years, this car will be getting back on track. As you can see here, I've done a few things. I haven't had a chance to film DIYs and step-by-step processes for everything I've done because I'm scrambling and trying to get as much done as I can in a very short amount of time. Real quick, you'll see I got the 9 Lines Racing wing. I wrapped it with a buddy of mine. Came out cool, red digital camo. As you know, all the track footage I had to date was with either no wing or the CR wing. And SCCA time trials made the CR illegal now for sport and tuner categories since it's a limited production car they count it as. So the CR wing cannot be used on base model S2000s and Tuner 4 anymore. So that kind of left me wondering what I wanted to do with this car, since that's what I originally built the car for, is a cross combination of SCCA autocross with STR class and a time trial tuner program. But I don't really want to go back to no wing on track, especially for the high speed tracks like Watkins Glen. It gets a little sketchy when the car is going that fast. A 1/2-inch gurney with it that I do not have installed right now because I'm going to Watkins Glen. I want the least amount of drag possible. Curious if I'll be faster at Watkins Glen or not with this setup here. It's because it's going to add more drag to the car, and you really don't need a ton of rear downforce at Watkins Glen, but we'll see. I'm not going to be running a splitter up front for the time being, because with this wing I am now at 7 points in the S2K Takeover Modified class, so I'm right at the max now. With that wing, and I just had a blowout on my Burke High Flow Cat. So what I ended up doing last minute here is just stabbing all the cat out, so now it's technically a test pipe, so that adds 1/8 of a point to the build, which got me right to 7 points. Real quick, I've fully rebuilt the front and rear calipers. These are Cerakoted black. I got the Pagged Racing RS29 pads up front from Stable Energies. New StopTech stainless steel brake lines up front. Nothing wrong with the old ones, just it's been 6 years on them, so I kind of figured for 55 bucks it'd be a cheap peace of mind to have new brake lines up front. Of course, I got the same rotors thrown back on it from Watkins Glen 2021. Just bled all the brakes with Motul 600 or Hawk HP 600, same stuff. So that's all ready to go. Rear calipers I rebuilt fully myself too. First time rebuilding a rear caliper, but I didn't have a chance to film it. Not too bad of a job, a little scarier taking it apart than putting it back together. Cerakoted black as well. This is the bling bling going on now in the rear. Is I have the new hubs, new knuckles, Carceps hubs with ARP OEM length studs, new nut obviously for the axle. I also rebuilt the axles as swapping the cups from side to side and put fresh AMSOIL NGLI-1 grease in those cups, and painted the inside of them as well so that there's no more rust showing. So new toe links as well. I had these for a couple years sitting in the garage, so the new knuckle came with a new ball joint. Back here, this ball joint's brand new now, so I figured might as well do the tie rod as well. Brand new AP1 tie rod. So I got a new ball joint on that as well. The only one that's still original with the car is the upper control arm. Still running the same spring rates here, so I'll be interested to see how that goes. You'll notice that I have the brake hose off right now. Got to clock the bushings, torque the bushings at the proper ride height still, then I'll reinstall the brake hose. As you can see here, I cut the same flange that I did in my DIYs back in the day. Videos are on my channel if you haven't seen them for how to do the rear brake duct setup. But that's been going strong. I'm still running the OEM solid disc in the rear. The brake duct is really just cooling the rear surface. The front surface is exposed to the elements, so may help even out the wear and the cooling on both sides. So yeah, the car still needs an alignment. Just getting ready to, like I said, clock the bushings, put it back down on the ground. I'll give you guys a sneak peek at the diff, or not the diff, but the axles here and how I painted them. You can see that each side is nice and black, matte black now, and that these OEM boots I reused, OEM clamps, and they're looking real pretty in there. Torqued all the bolts, you can see, paint marked them, and underneath the car is looking really, really good now with those axle cups painted, because before that was just the biggest eyesore underneath the car was the rust on those So really happy with that, how that came out. Just again, another quick look. New ball joint on the knuckle in the rear. That's where the brake hose is going to enter. And that's the inlet over there with my Craftsman DIY shop vac inlets. They work fantastic and they're super durable, taking hits like no other on track, and they don't break at all. It's a solid ABS injection molded piece. So suspension, everything's looking really good under here. Megan Racing mounts I inspected though, there's no cracks or tears in those after 3 or 4 years of using those so far already. So this diff is AP2 diff, as you can see. It's got the little vent box up there. It's a 2007 diff. And I also have a AP2 drive shaft, and currently in the car is an AP2 transmission. I have my AP1 transmission being rebuilt right now with new gear sets and synchros, and that'll be going back in the car, but for the time being I'm running an AP2 trans with the AP2 drive shaft, AP2 diff, and of course the F20C up front. The high flow cat from Burke has failed. It was jiggling around in there. There was no telltale signs of it failing, but I saw posts online of them failing, so I took it apart, and sure enough, you saw the video there, it was loose, and so I just smashed it out. It took quite a bit of work to do that. I figured while I'm under here real quick, here's a quick look at, you've seen all the videos on my channel of the POR 15 coating on the control arms, everything looking real pretty, but you guys know I did a very careful method installing the roll bar with seam sealer and making a flap and hammering the flap back and then undercoating and everything. Just wanted to give you guys an update after tons of track time and many years of the Elements. It still is absolutely perfect up there with no corrosion. So I'm really happy with the way that's been holding up. Another thing I did, PCI seat rail with the Recaro pole position, still running the OEM belt, but I use a Simpson Hybrid S Hans device on track. This took care of the play that I had Buddy Club rails after many years. Developed some play on them. So this thing's solid again, seats touching the floor. There's a separate video I'm going to upload all the modifications I had to do to the PCI seat rail to get the pole position seat on the floor in the car. The rear is actually touching the floor. So that's a big win there. Other updates, Koyo radiator. I really just did that for preventative maintenance because the OEM one was 22 years old now, and the plastic end pieces where the hoses tie into are known to fail after plastic gets brittle after so many years and heat cycles. So everything's still good. The Shore-Eye battery still kicking butt. Got it on the dedicated charger and storm mode right now. Of course, Ingles torque dampener, really no adjustments needed there, even though I did notice when I had this intake out and I was doing the radiator that these bolts did actually loosen up. So I'm glad I checked them. So if you guys have a torque damper, make sure you check the torque on your bolts for this bracket to the engine once in a while. Not much else I've updated on the car. I do have the LHT master cylinder brace to install. However, I have this radium bracket that's in the way right now. So I think over the winter I'm going to design a new bracket to mount this catch can over here using this tapped hole and this slot. I think it's a good spot for it. I'll install the brake master cylinder brace, which should help give a nice feel on track. So another thing I just worked on down here is a rock guard. This is like some aluminum grill mesh from Amazon, like $10 for a roll. And I just bent it in there and made a rock guard so that if I do get some serious rocks thrown at the car on track or debris or whatever kind of debris, it's not going to impact the oil cooler or the AC condenser, or you can see the radiator, the new Koyo radiator at the bottom sticking out there. But what I did was I just drilled some holes through the OEM plastic and bolted it together with some 1032 stainless steel hardware and nylon locking nuts on the back. And then I used like the OEM holes on the bottom. I didn't actually have to drill holes. So this came out with the button heads. It came out really clean on the bottom of the car. And then of course I ran the bolts up from the bottom. And oversized washers through the grill mesh. It's got a little bit of impact absorbance to it. There's no brackets up top, there's just a bent lip that's pushing against the oil cooler with some edge trim on it. As you can see, I did nice edge trim around the tow hook and gave it a little more stiffness there with the zip tie. But that should just be an extra peace of mind on track to prevent anything from impacting the oil cooler and potentially losing an engine on track. So wanted to get that done while I had the front bumper off. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the front bumper back on. But that's really the gist of it, guys. A lot of just maintenance stuff. Another thing I actually didn't mention was I got new OEM tie rods up front. So those are going to be pretty. Yeah, we're ready to go. We're going to see how this car does with the added downforce in the rear. Of course, this is actually the third trunk now that I own as a red S2000 trunk. The other two have the CR wing and the OEM little lip. Those are out in my shed now. And got a third trunk so that there's no extra holes shown. So it's a fresh clean install. Here's just a look at the car from the back. I went with the smallest wing, 64-inch, just because you know, I'm not running a splitter up front or anything yet, and I feel like it'll be plenty for my needs. A much bigger package than the CR wing I've been running. So just got to get the car on the ground, tighten the axle nuts to infinity and beyond, and we should be in the clear here to hit Watkins Glen. Probably going to be uploading this video after I finish Watkins Glen, but the footage of Watkins Glen probably should be following up shortly after. Thanks guys always for watching. Let me know if you still appreciate updates on the S2000. I know I've been slacking on S2000 content lately on the channel. However, over the last few years, it seems people haven't been as interested in watching videos about this car. Maybe it's because it's not as popular of a car and not many people are in the market for one, is my assumption there. But very special. I'll always have this car. Continue uploading videos of my new daily. And thanks for watching, guys. Leave a comment, leave a like, and I'll catch you in the next one.